Welcome to Closer to Venus. I'm Johnny Burke, and today's guest is Bhavna Megh. She is a mindset and energy coach and founder of Stepping Into You. Her work combines experience in human behavior, wellness, and energy medicine to help individuals and their businesses release what no longer serves them. Today, we'll discuss how we can use our mind and body to be more in alignment with who we are and what we desire. Bhavna, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Johnny. Thanks for having me.
So what made you want to become an energy coach?
I've grown up with it, energy healing, but it was largely my own health and wellness journey that made me dive much, much more deeply into that.
Okay.
And being able to heal my own body and be well, be happy and healthy.
And I've noticed that from other people that I've interviewed, energy healers, shamans, and people that practice energy medicine, which I think is pretty much the same thing as energy healing. Many of them discovered that practice from either trying to heal themselves or someone close to them. You find the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, even more recently, I've met a few people in my community and same thing. They were wanting to do something different and actually be in wellness at a physical level or at a mental level in themselves. And that led them down that path.
And often those people tried traditional methods, going to the doctor and so on, and they turned to an alternative because the traditional method obviously didn't work.
Yeah.
I hear that a lot. Energy medicine, for those of us that are not really familiar with it, what's the difference between that and energy healing, or is it the same thing?
For me, it's more or less the same thing in terms of topic, but I find energy medicine is much more expansive in terms of capturing what it is that we're doing, whereas energy healing feels sometimes for me, it's me doing something to somebody else and fixing them, where it's actually, opening up and helping and facilitating an individual to really tap into that own knowing capability themselves. So energy medicine feels more expansive than energy healing.
Now, were there any other influences that kind of inspired you to follow this path, or did you just decide one day, I'm going to try something different?
Well, I've grown up with energy healing. My mum's a healer, and when we were unwell as kids, myself and my siblings, she would do rituals with us to shift whatever was going on. We'd often see people coming, just rock up at the front door and say, oh, my child is sick and, can you help? Or I'm not feeling well, can you help? So I've grown up with it, but when I was unwell as a teenager and was on heavy medication, it was when I got into my 20s that really I thought to myself, I don't want to be on medication every single day for the rest of my life. There's got to be something else out there. I started exploring Reiki as a modality, as an energy medicine, and then kind of everything avalanched or cascaded from there.
Reiki is also another common denominator with intuitive. So is Reiki a modality of energy healing, or is it something different?
I would call it a modality. So it's got its own structure and form. It's using symbols that have been established. So when I look at the different modalities that I've worked with, they've got their own, I guess, a thought form and an energy field around it in itself. And the frequencies that have been attuned into all of that is what you're able to gift and share with others, as well as tapping into source energy as well. So I personally would call it a modality. Other people may think differently.
Since we're talking about frequencies and this practice has been in your family, was that just one generation, or is that tradition with your family several generations old?
So I recently found out that it goes at least back to my great-granddad and great-uncle. My granddad learned from his great-uncle. His dad passed away when he was quite young. So he learned his practices, which are broader than the ones that my mum used to practice when we were little. So I'm really excited to be able to spend some time with him soon to dive into that information. But yeah, very generational. Not to take away from anyone that's learning it new and they haven't had it, but I think there's just this energy that kind of comes with that, the ancestral energy that's passed down with that as well, which is really beautiful.
Well, the ancestral energy definitely conjures images and thoughts of shamanism. I've been told that energy healing and shamanism are very much related, but I think many of us get confused. Is energy healing part of shamanism, or is shamanism part of energy healing?
Yeah, good question. I would say there's a lot of similarities. My experience with shamanism has been a lot of working with nature. So a lot of shamans that I've come across work a lot with plant medicines, which I love. I use essential oils, and herbs and plants have been part of my own wellness journey for such a long time. So it's being able to tap into that nature aspect, but not to discount the spiritual connection that they actually have.
It's interesting to note that someone who has those kind of tendencies that can become a shaman and has that potential can easily be mistaken for someone who's got some kind of mental illness.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's because we've been brought up with such a very systemized approach to health in the Western world, that spiritual aspect isn't necessarily part of health and well-being. It's not necessarily part of somebody being a whole human. When you go to a doctor, they're not necessarily looking at your body, mind, and spirit as a whole picture to support you in getting well. I see where individuals may be presenting what could be easily labeled as a mental health condition. My perspective on it is that they've experienced and are storing and holding some sort of emotional trauma. They're experiencing and holding some sort of energy that needs to be supported, moved, heard, for it to then be able to pass and for that person to be able to reset to a point of balance and come back into a state of balance. And it feels just more gentle, to be honest. It feels, when you consider that the mind, body, and spirit is simply out of balance when we're presenting different conditions, we're then taking an approach to bring it back into balance. We're not saying someone's sick. It's like we're just out of balance. Where are we out of balance? And let's explore what that where is.
It seems like even though this practice is 30, 40,000 years old, if not older, it seems much more advanced than, let's say, the Western model of medicine. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much we don't know. There's so much in all of that. I hate calling it magic because it's not magic, and magic is only something that science hasn't proven yet. But we're also in a really wonderful place in time where technology has shown so many advances that we're starting to be able to measure things like all of the different quantum sciences, being able to demonstrate how connected everything is.
Everything is connected. Everything is energy.
Yeah. When you've had somebody in the energy medicine world saying, well, we're all connected, everything's energy, we're all connected. And then 40 years later, quantum entanglement is proving that through tests. How wonderful, because now the person that you were calling crazy before, it's like, oh, actually, they were well beyond their years. They were well beyond time and space to be able to be doing that and being in the truth of that.
You also discovered NLP in your studies, Neurolinguistic programming. I'm interested to know, how did you become interested in that, and what impact has that had on your studies and on your path?
Yeah. So I came across it when I was doing my master's study in human resource development. I was already working in the space of people development, behavioral development, and was doing my master's study to be qualified in, to be able to then get other jobs to do what I was doing in that space. And one of the modules that I did was neurolinguistic programming, or actually I think it was a little segment inside a bigger module. And it just tickled me. It really piqued my curiosity. I've done a little bit of psychology in college and some self-study thereafter in between these 2 points. But NLP had interested me because we dived into a little bit of the use of language and how we can use language and really, really simple tools to be able to create shifts in state of being, create shifts in habits, create shifts in thoughts. So after that little introduction in my master's, I looked for and signed up, then studied and became an NLP practitioner and did hypnotherapy along with it to go even deeper into being able to access and communicate with the subconscious mind and create change there. sometimes people wanted me to just hypnotize them when I was out at a therapeutic level, to be able to support individuals to drop into things that they wanted to shift and clear, traumas they were experiencing, stress that they were having, and using NLP or both of those tools to support them in creating alignment to what they wanted to create in the future and the goals that they had, and helping them to shift into states that were more aligned to that.
Now, in the NLP training, I was told that actually very recently that timeline therapy is part of the training. Is that true?
It is. So when I did my training, I did it in the UK, and timeline therapy for me was all part of the parcel. I became aware when I moved to Australia, timeline therapy was its own, almost like its own little bolt-on into NLP and hypnotherapy. For me, timeline therapy is being able to guide somebody either into the future or into the past.
Into the future.
Yeah.
Into the future. Wow. Okay. I've heard a lot about the past lives, and actually the person that told me about timeline therapy did mention the future as well. So tell us more about that.
It's really powerful if you consider that the subconscious mind is only present. It's only present. And everything that you're experiencing, whether it's actually happening in your physical reality right now, or you're watching television, you're watching a show, you're listening to a podcast and you're having an emotional reaction, that's you experiencing something. It's your reality. So working with timeline therapy going into the future, we would say, for example, set a goal for in 5 years' time or 10 years' time, work with the individual or with myself to, in 12 months' time, what does it see, sound, sense, feel like, and completely embody that state of being. What have I achieved in 12 months' time? What have I completed? And feel into every aspect of that, noticing what's changed in reality, external reality, as a result of the end of that 12 months, and then 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and so on until the point of the goal. In doing that, you're creating a sensory experience for your subconscious, and your subconscious is not distinguishing anything differently from past, present, and future. So it becomes your reality now. So whatever you're trying to create 5 years in the future, 10 years in the future, your body has already memorized it, putting you into alignment with now your conscious actions. So you've already experienced it to be real. So you could almost say that it's magnetizing it towards you, because your body's kind of wondering, well, I already have that. So where is it? Like, let's move faster. Let's do some things. And, you're drawing it into you and drawing it into your reality. So it's really powerful.
And that's related to the law of attraction, is it not?
Yeah.
You'll experience what you expect, right?
Yeah.
Experience it as if it's already done.
Yeah, absolutely. The energy that you're putting out, the frequency you're putting out is the one that you're pulling back in.
You've also done some channeling as well. And I believe you've channeled guides and what you described as other beings. Tell us how that began and what some of the experiences were, the ones that really, I guess, stand out.
I guess when it's just happened, it's been frequencies, energies, groups that I've been communicating with to create and support balance. And then when I've had, I believe it was one of my spirit guides come in, and then this other energy come in, and in my physical body, I felt the shift and change. And I remember it felt like an elder. I was doing some communication work with the Indigenous elders here, and it felt like one of them came in and my whole face felt like it shifted. My neck felt like it shifted. I was sitting cross-legged and I could feel the person within around me. And then at the same time, I feel there was my own spirit guide. So as that energy left, I feel like my own spirit guide decided to just jump in for a little bit of physical body time. It was an interesting experience. So again, that came with a bit of a shift and almost a change in my voice. So when I've done, I call it going into surrogation. It's connecting up with either another person's energy field or a collective's energy field. When I do that, which is much more of a conscious process for me, I feel the sensations of that other person, that being, that group within me. So I've been in surrogation, for example, the police force, to try and do some gifting and loving and sharing some love. And immediately I felt tightness around my neck, and almost as if I was being punched in the gut over and over and over and over and over again. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting, being choked at the neck. So not being able to speak, not being able to challenge, and certainly being punched in the gut has an essence of that with that particular point in the body with the chakras, your own identity or ego, and that more so not being allowed to be. And my experience with those kind of surrogations, I mean, I'm really going into surrogation to bring in a loving energy. I love myself. I am powerful. I am a creator. It's safe. I am safe. Just to be able to share and infuse that into that collective energy. It's a pretty intense experience sometimes. And often with particular individuals where people will say, oh, they're a bad person. I'm like, oh, just go and give them some love. So being able to shift some of that hurt and gift the shifting of some of that hurt and pain, well, I can, so why not?
It seems like there are parallels between channeling and a lot of the shamanistic rites or traditions or practices. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
When you mention encountering elders, I can't help but think that those elders might actually be in your bloodline from maybe centuries or a couple generations back. Did you ever get that feeling? Or
I've had a energy healer, a Reiki practitioner, actually feel into when I was having a session with her, and this was quite some years ago. And she's had the vision of me as an elder with a group of women talking about women's rites of passage. And at the end of it, before she shared it with me, she asked me if I had family in Australia. I said, not that I'm aware of. I've got some few relatives that have moved over, maybe on the West Coast, but I'm not as ancestrally. But I think ancestrally, if you look at it from that quantum world, everything's connected. We're all connected. And if I feel and know I'm a very, very old soul. So I think I keep coming back for a little bit more punishment.
keep coming back. So that implies past lives. Do you have any experience of your own, or for that matter, past lives from maybe some of your clients?
I can't say where I completely sit with past lives. I am aware that I've had many, and I feel that my soul is very, very knowing, experienced, which would then indicate that it's lived many lives. I haven't felt or seen anything of my own that I have been so certain that it was a different life of mine, except one occasion. And it felt like a future me, though. I feel there's always been something with my abilities, the parts of me that I already know to be connected. There's a lot with me and future and seeing future. So this one particular life, and it was in a meditation, I had and saw my feet. There were shoes, and there were men's shoes. I was in trousers, and I kind of pulled myself out because I often get quite excited when I have a vision, and drop back into the meditation. It's like, let's go back. So I went back into the meditation, and I could see myself then. I could feel then the standing up in this other body and moving and walking down this path. So that was a sensation, a very, very real sensation of me in another body in a future life.
And especially in a different gender as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I've done some training where when you're looking at the Merkaba, it's so as a pyramid when they're both up and down, so one's masculine, one's feminine. So each life is either going to be a feminine one or a masculine one, and then in a male body, male, female, male, female. So there's 8 versions of you almost in this training that I did, which I didn't reject. It felt like a truth to me. We have the potential to come back in whatever shape or form we would like. My own religious upbringing taught that when somebody dies, they'll come back in a body of whatever animal, including humans, whatever animal represents the learning that needs to take place in their next lifetime. Part of the death rites and rituals that we do in Hinduism, we place a plate of rice under the body, and it's said that the footprints of the animal that that person is going to come back as will be in the rice. I had an uncle pass away, and his daughter-in-law looked at that plate and told me that there were bird footprints in there. I was not in the same spiritual place that I am now. That was maybe 20 years ago. And I couldn't quite figure out what would it mean if I looked and there were bird footprints in there. What would that do to my own reality? Is it easier for me to not look and pretend that she's lying? But what reason does she have to lie? Culturally, we've been brought up with we reincarnate, and human is the opportunity for us to be able to ascend and go back, return to source, provided we've learned all the lessons we needed to.
A moment ago, you brought up the Merkaba, which I believe goes back to ancient civilizations. So for those of us who don't know what is it and how did you discover that?
I discovered it through teachings by Drunvalo Melchizedek. So I did a couple of his programs, one online and one in person with one of his trainers. And the Merkaba is a geometric shape. When you look into the world of geometrics, don't take what I say as gospel. It's just my interpretation and understanding of it. But it is a energetic field that is placed, that can be activated, the masculine and feminine, pulling earth energy and sky energy or universe energy to create a field around the body or around a thing. So after I did my training, we learned and went through the process of activating the Merkaba around our own field, our own bodies. And really the most powerful way to do that is simply through intention, being able to drop completely into your heart and asking for it to activate. What it's doing is creating I feel a balancing, positive energy around your whole being.
Raising our vibration. We hear about this a lot. We know it's important, but why are we hearing so much about it now?
So I think the increase in the awareness of it, the message around it, the communication of it is an indication, as I see it, a shift that's happening globally. So we're hearing more and more people talk about it. Why is it important? It's important from my perspective to be able to, as part of shifting and clearing what is and what a lot of people will call the shadow aspects of self, but really being able to love all aspects of ourselves. So when we are able to love and release the fear that we're carrying, whether that fear is anxiety, worry, hate, that has manifested into sickness of whatever kind, when we're able to love on that, we start to heal it and allow space for that to heal, which in turn does increase our own personal frequency. And as that collective frequency is increasing, people are becoming more and more aware. It's one of those things where once it's come by you, maybe once or twice, it's almost the same principle as if you're going to buy a new car. You decide on a car that you think nobody else has really got, and then you go see it at the showroom, and then for the next few weeks or months, you see it everywhere. We open up our awareness to raising frequency. We might have seen it in an ad on social media. We may have watched something, a communication or an interview, and it's just slipped in. And then we are more aware of it, and it allows that information to come in even more until you're ready to explore it as an individual. Collectively, feel the frequency of everything on planet slowly shifting and changing. You can see old systems, patterns, desperately holding on to what is known simply by the fact that there's more and more of that being pushed out. It's often what happens on an individual level. When you're trying to shift into a new state, your body, as it's memorized its way of being, it's habitualized this way of being, it'll put up resistances to you creating the shift into the new state because this is memorized, this is easy, this is habit. And the current state is the path of least resistance to existing. When you change, it becomes uncomfortable, unknown, and your subconscious mind is wonderfully creative in getting you to stay in the way that you are right now. So we're experiencing that on a global level. We're experiencing the path of least resistance, holding on as we're shifting collectively into higher frequencies. There's conversations where people will say, it's not about saving anyone, or we need to save everybody. But I think it's just starting here. Loving self, loving more of yourself, and allowing yourself to heal, and that is the raising of frequency.
Does it have anything to do with moving from the 3D world to the 5D world, or is that a different discussion altogether?
It's a bigger discussion, definitely. And certainly, yes. I mean, when you're moving from 3D, you're simply looking at self. You are this one being in this one place. When you're moving and shifting into 5D, it's the connection to everything. It's the connection to all beings. I feel that's where your potential for manifestation of things is just exponential, because you are connected to it all. There's no separation of you and the thing that you want in your life or desire. There's no separation between you and another person. So it's much, much more malleable, done obviously from a place of love.
Isn't it more about moving away from fear towards love, and at the same time it's more of a group consciousness?
Yes, is a short answer to that. I think there's an aspect of when, love and fear are on a duality. Over the last few years, I've felt into, rather than sitting on the duality of one or the other, it's not about sitting in the extreme bliss and euphoria. It's about being in oneness as a human being, or consciousness experiencing itself as a human being. It's being able to be in that 0 point in oneness, to be able to ebb and flow out of that whole experience. So that does certainly require a lot more love to be able to allow what comes up and is triggering to move through, rather than becoming attached. And equally, for what we experience on a human level as being love, fun and joy, again, to be able to move through and not be attached. And from the group consciousness perspective, the more we as individuals are allowing ourselves to come to that point of oneness and not sticking in a place with experiences, good, bad, right, wrong, we're generally moving into a very, very big, expansive flow state. We're simply being in the present moment.
Now, you believe that the more we remember who we are, the more we raise consciousness. When you say remember, what exactly does that mean?
Remembering our complete potential. We look at and have been shown superhero movies for decades now. And there's even language when individuals have this healing potential, this being able to see into the future, being able to communicate with spirits. They're superhuman. It's like they're remembering. I don't see them that as a superpower. I see that as a remembering of true self, of complete or more of the capacity and potential that we have in our nature. Who we are is a programmed human based on all of the things that we've experienced through our childhood, from our parents, from our families, from our environments, school, all of the different various systems. We've become this version of human, but our version of human is just way out here. It's remembering that aspect. It's remembering that our physical body knows how to heal itself. It's remembering that any one of us can put a hand on somebody else's shoulder and they will feel the healing from that. They'll feel the loving energy from that, and it will go to where it needs to go with the right intentions.
So anyone can become that powerful to heal another person.
Anyone can remember to become that powerful to heal another person. So it's not becoming it, it's simply dropping back into the nature of who you really are and the truth of who you really are.
What's the easiest way for us to actually drop back into or remember who we are?
Loving and healing the aspects of yourself that create discomfort, dis-ease. That's on a physical, emotional and mental level, and a spiritual level, energetic level. Being able to love and release that, feel it and free it is one of my favorite ways to describe that process. If you've got hurt, feel it, free it, let it go so that you can return back to a point of zero. It's all of the hurt that holds us and confines us in what we are not able to do. That's what creates that reality. But when we love more on the hurt to release it out, we open up the potential of who we are. Not everybody wants to be a healer. That's okay. But even on a very day-to-day business professional level, you can open up your potential by releasing some of the anxiety, releasing some of the worry, to be in more peace, to be in more creation, because that's actually who you are.
I think we need more healers everywhere. Bhavna, thanks so much for joining us tonight. In the meantime, how can our listeners find you online?
They can find me at my website, which is steppingintoyou.com, or they can follow me on Instagram. My handle is steppingintoyou.
Thanks again. I will put that in the notes in the transcript as well. You've been listening to Closer to Venus. I'm Johnny Burke. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing. You can also go to closertovenus.com for more information. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.